Hello everyone, I'm Daniela, UX researcher at Nubank. Today, we will talk about research in low-income communities. I grew up in a low-income family and studied in public schools in Brazil. In my journey, I noticed that some brands don't know how to communicate and understand people that are from low-income groups. I use my understanding of this reality on the market to ask questions about how to improve the fit of the products and services that we offer to them. Now, at Nubank, I can apply what I learned based on my background to understand the low-income population that don't have credit access in Brazil. Brazil has a big research community with more than 4,000 people discussing about research. And we have one local conference that we call Observe that I be part in 2021. This is what we will discuss today. First, we will take a look at the importance of talking about low-income users and communities. And finally, I will share with you the adaptations that I did in my research process to better include this population. So, why it's important to speak about low-income users? Understanding the low-income communities is important, especially in Latin America, where they represent at least half of our population and don't have the necessary access to services and products. The Social Panorama study shows that we have over 200 million people in a situation of poverty and over 80 million in a situation of extreme poverty. This is more than the populations of countries like France or Italy. The pandemics make this worse. We are seeing a social crisis with big impacts on education and hunger. This means that the population from these countries aren't receiving job offers. They are experiencing strong inflationary pressures. Food and energy prices are up. They are also going through an educational crisis. An entire generation of students have missed as much as 2 full academic years of school because of bad remote access. You might be wondering how you can possibly use my tips if your company does not work with this audience. So, when I talk about low-income users and communities, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Even if you don't work directly with this audience, you may need to find few users from these groups into your job. I like the way that Jonathan Stern explains about consumer vulnerability. That is, if the person can choose the products or services that better suit his needs, or indeed has to put a huge amount of time and effort into procuring these products and services, this counts as a person in a vulnerable situation. He also said that personal circumstances have an impact on whether people find themselves in vulnerable situations. But we cannot simply or easily divide society into static vulnerable groups and groups that are not vulnerable. So, when I talk about low-income users, I'm also talking about Uber drivers, a single mom not paid for maternity leave, a student from a digital course with bad remote access, food delivery workers, a patient in a public hospital, or a third-party telemarketing attendant from your company. We need to know how to do that because it will not just be useful in the present, but in the future too. Did you learn in some book or course how to deal with social inequality in research studies? Even have lived with low-income people, I was not prepared to deal with the challenges that the inequality of access brings to our jobs, especially in remote studies. I noticed it when I was preparing to interview someone that is the same age as me, but not as financially educated and with limited access to credit. What separated us at the moment, besides all my privileges, was the almost 1,000 of kilometers between my city in the southeast of Brazil and his city in the northeast of Brazil. I thought it would be the easiest interview for me on this day. However, when I started the video call, I discovered that it was the first time that the user was using a video call app. He is a cocoa harvest worker with limited access to institutions like banks. When he read the screen, although he spoke all the words correctly, he did not understand anything that we were saying. The place where he took the call from for the interview was an uncomfortable and small room with low lighting. where the workers could rest after a long day of work. Despite all this, he was interested in understanding credit cards and investments to improve his financial organization and make his money work. So I started thinking, which book or course actually prepare us as researchers to deal with this type of challenges, especially in a digital-first context? Who are we leaving out in favor of criteria that make our lives easier, but fails to give thousands of people the opportunity to teach us based on their rich experiences? Low-income groups are among us, even if they are not our company's focus. Service providers, third-party agents, students, and elderly can't be seen as the exception. Because of interest, they might spend more money than the middle or high-income population to have access to similar products and services that, as a workforce, they need so much. We can't say we are user-centered if we just exclude huge groups of people. So I will share with you 5-step checklists to adapt your research for low-income communities. The main reasons that we need to put it into practice is because we may face challenges with this population like user understanding problems, technology access and skills, and environment with many interruptions. First, make sure they have access to your study. When we are planning a study, we usually send a screener through email, but it's not working for them because they are grassroots workers. No time to check emails, so they use mostly chats like WhatsApp. It is possible to adapt and include them if you understand at some level their routine and use tools that they use on their daily basis, like chats and in-app comms. We chose the research tool that better fits our needs. Some studies need a good internet connection or a specific device such as laptop. One tip: the more familiar the tools are, the less the participation effort. We think about the quality of data that we will have, but we can exclude people without the equipment or the necessary education level, especially during the working hours. To fix it, base your agenda on their needs, scheduling calls before and after work and during the lunchtime. In case of a limited phone data package, ask your company to top up their funds as a part of the study rewards. Make them trust your study is reliable. We usually explain about the study and invite them. This is not wrong, but they are afraid of scams and sharing their personal data. Something that could help us is use a code on the invite communication and share the same code with the company attendees to give the user the possibility to check if the research is true. We hire a recruitment agency and build the brief. But some agents with big teams make users speak with different people that raise insecurity to speak about personal matters. Try to ask the recruitment agents to always have the same person speaking with the users to reassure confidence. They automatically feel disconnected to us by comparing our background and presentation to theirs. So wear natural clothes in plain backgrounds, show the company badge, and keep a less formal conversation with them. Build trust, but talk with them like they're in a usual conversation. This is the environment that we need to be capable of dealing with. Many voices, diffuse attention, and different activities. Work on your moderation guide. Be creative. We write our moderation guide divided by the big topics that we need to investigate. We ask about our company products and services naturally. Sometimes we ask about personal things, but they don't feel comfortable speaking about sensitive topics, so we need to prepare them for it. You can adapt it if you explain that you are there to learn with them. When we speak about sensitive topics, show the reason and be careful with the terms. They can feel bad not understanding words and terms about our products or services. Be careful with your language and use visual resources and interactive activities. We expected the participant to be in a quiet place, fully focused on the study and the interview. But usually, users' interviews are on work breaks. Many interruptions are expected, mostly if they are stay-at-home parents. Give them space to make pause, summarize the assumptions, and resume. It's possible that you deal with lots of noises or echoes, but never show that you are uncomfortable. I will share an example about how I make these questions easier for the users. So, if you need to understand how is the user process to buy a cloth, you can try this. Ask the users to complete this sentence about when they usually buy clothes. Ask about how they prefer to buy with icons and images. And finally, understand what payment method they prefer to use, in this case with visual options. So I split the question in some parts and make it easier to pay attention to. Usability and concept test. Always have a backup plan. We send the prototype link to the participant through chat or email and ask them to share the screen. But some of them never had a video call before. Work with the designer to break down the prototype. Each part is a task. It is easier, especially if they misclicked. We guide them through the activities and tasks and ask questions about it. Try to do it without making them feel uncomfortable. Otherwise, they won't finish the tasks. If the prototype does not open, share your cell phone screen and follow their eyes to understand which movements you need to do. Let them guide you. And for connection problems, lower the video quality of your camera or turn the camera off. But try to introduce yourself with the camera on first. It is important to create a connection between them and you. The majority of these users have never seen a prototype before in their life. They are curious and it's common for them to misclick or feel confused about what to do. To avoid it, Maria Fernanda Lopes, the product designer on my team, developed a solution that helps both of us to perform these tasks. Map your tasks and split them into separate sections. Create a summary with these sections and guide the user through them. If they misclick, it is easy to help them to return to the activity. Bring their voices to the table. Imagine that you made all these adaptations and you are in the analysis and the report phases. Usually, we collect the findings, build our insights, and add some quotes. But the problem is, when you use our voice, we can't connect the stakeholders with the user's pain. To prevent it, I started to use interior cognition concepts in the Young's method to show them what the users feel, what they think, and what are their guiding principles. This is a good way to construct cognitive empathy because we add the focus on the user vision in the primary person. We need to stop analyzing groups of topics and start analyzing each interview, searching for the concepts and writing them in an impactful way. So instead of using quotes, analyze the quotes and build the concepts to show to your team. Use the user's audio files to convey what goes beyond words, especially when your social and product user barriers become evident. When you do this, observe the difference of the team's perception and understanding. I hope I have broadened your vision of how low-income users and communities could be a great source of learning for us. I also hope that from now on, we will see them as people who deserve great services and products designed for their realities. Think about your research process and use some of these tips to think how your study could be more accessible for someone else. I have improved the scope of my studies and also the value proposition of my products, the communication, and the customized offers. We understand more about the struggles from the most challenging point of view. Evaluate the results of insights drawn from your most inclusive study and compare with the previous one. You will be surprised. Thanks for listening.